So this is how to insert the Enlite sensor. For this part you will need the Enlite inserter, an Enlite sensor and an Enlite over tape. It's first useful just to get used to how the inserter works, and how that works is you have to press the green button in, and when you actually release it is when it actually inserts the sensor. So just to give that a practice without the sensor, if you just turn the inserter upside down, push the sensor part in till you hear it click with your fingers, and then with the green button push it in, and then it's actually when you let go with your finger that's when it releases it. So it's useful just to know that for when we actually insert the sensor. Okay, so the first part is to get the sensor out of its packaging, and you'll see there's a little arrow to the tab to peel it down. Once open, if you get the sensor out, it's almost got 2 feet that it just stands on. There we go. And then if you've got it so that the bit that's sticking out is towards you, you will then see that how this goes down is that the green button will now be not facing you when you put it down onto the sensor. So you just go straight down all the way to the table. Once you've gone all the way to the table, you now see it's got almost 2 ears sticking out. And the thing to do there is to put your fingers on the ears and then just lift straight up at 90 degrees. And that is now ready for insertion. So at this point you're going to pick the area where you put the sensor, and I'm going to put this on my abdomen area, but you can use the abdomen area and your buttocks. Always worthwhile to stay away at least a couple of centimetres away from the belly button. Okay. So if you can see now, I'm just going to put mine around here away from the belly button, and you just pop the sensor onto the area that you want, and then this is the part now where you push the green button in, and then when you release it, that's when it inserts the sensor. Count to 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this point is really important, to push the green button in and keep it pressed in, and then lift off at 90 degrees. Once that's done now, on the base of the sensor you'll feel that there's a plastic part. If you just put your 2 fingers on there, and then at the top you'll feel that these 2 little grippy parts on the side of the top part of the sensor. If you just hold those and then pull out at 90 degrees, and that means the needle is now retractable, and that is to go in the sharps bin. The next part, if you keep your 2 fingers on the base of the sensor, you'll see underneath that part there is a flap, and it's the bottom flap that you just need to get and just pull away, keeping your other 2 fingers on the base, and that puts the adhesive down. Then you can just, the top tab, just pull that back, but don't remove it at this point, because this is the part where you need to put the over tape on. So if you go to your bag and get your over tape out, can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so you'll see on the over tape on the back it's got a number 1, and the number 1 peels all the way back. So there we go, and then you can see that's the sticky part, and how we're going to put this on is like this. So you cover the base of the sensor, but it's very important that you don't cover the 2 little prongs that are sticking out of the base of the sensor. So just over the top part there, and the top part of the tape goes over the white adhesive part that's already on, and the bottom part of the tape goes over the base of the sensor. Then if you take off the side tabs, you'll see that that's now stuck down. And you just keep this tab back here for the moment. So you should have your mini link here, and first, very important to make sure it's charged. So to make sure it's charged, if you just take the mini link off the blue docking station, you'll see that it flashes initially, but just to make sure that it is fully charged, once it stops flashing, pop it back onto the dock, and you'll see that the green light flashes. The green light flashing indicates that it is currently charging, and you'll know it's fully charged when you get a solid green light, and then the light will go off, and that will, you know, it is fully charged. It's very important to make sure that between wearing the sensor that you actually put it back onto the charger to let it charge up. It will go for 14 days without a charge, but it is best to pop it on. It will only take about an hour or an hour to charge in between sensor usage. So this is just charging up now. Just while it is charging, what we'll do is just pop it off for 1 second, where you can see it's fully charged there. The solid green light has come on, so that is now ready to use. On the back of the mini link, you will see a number after a GT, and you need to write this down before you put the mini link on the sensor. So this one is 2280939, and it's always 7 numbers. So you've got those 7 numbers there, and then it's ready to put in place. So now if we go back to the sensor, see the mini link has 2 holes there at the side of the center big hole that fit onto the prongs of the sensor. So it just slips into place, and you'll hear it click into place. Clicked in there, and then you wait for the green flashing lights to come on. And mine have gone straight away there, and that can take up to 60 seconds. And it's always important to have the sensor in place a good 5 or 10 minutes first to make sure that the sensor's wet. So after you've had the green flashing lights, the blue tape just peels back and then goes over the top of the sensor, so it's locked into place. So that's all done, and now we need to link it up to the pump. So at this point you will need your pump. Always useful to put the light on first so we can see what we're doing. This is the down arrow, and then if we go into the main menu, then down to sensor, press Act, and then go into edit settings, press Act, and then the sensor will be off, so press Act and turn it on. Then it comes up with all the options, and discuss with your healthcare professional what you want to do with setting glucose limits and low glucose suspend, and put those in. But for this important point is to put the transmitter ID in, which is the mini link ID. So go all the way down to where it says transmitter ID, go in there and press Act, and then put in that number. So mine was 2, press Act, 2, 8, 0, 9, 3, 9. Once you press Act there, it knows that the transmitter ID has been changed, so it wants to restart the sensor. So you can just press Escape there, and then that will take you back into your menu. Press escape again, and then you're now into your sensor menu, and what you're going to do is link to the sensor. So if you go to link to sensor, press act, and it gives you the option of new sensor, and because it is a new sensor you want to press act there, and it says new sensor, connect new sensor, press act. Well, we've already connected the new sensor and we've seen the green flashing light, so press act. And now what it's saying is the sensor is ready in 2 hours, and you will get an alarm saying enter saying BG now in 2 hours time, and that's when you'll put your first calibration in. It is really important with the first calibration that it's done at a time when your blood glucose is as stable as possible. So ideally it should have been at least 3 hours before you've last eaten and given insulin to make sure that the blood glucose is as stable as possible. There's no point in putting a calibration in immediately after lunch or immediately after breakfast or immediately after tea. So usually 3 hours after you've last eaten will be the best time to put the calibration. So think about when you're putting your sensor in, and think about the 2 hours after. This is fast forwarded 2 hours, and this is the message you would get now if in 2 hours time you would get a message coming up saying meter BG now. And once you get that, to get rid of the alarm, you press the escape button till it flashes, then press act, and then you need to do a blood glucose result to do the first calibration. So I'm going to do mine now. Okay, so my blood glucose has come up as 6.6. At this point, if you had a contour link meter, it would come up and say meter BG 6.6, do you want to update the sensor? And that is, if you update the sensor, that is a calibration. So if this was the one 2 hours after, you would go down to yes and click yes. But this meter isn't linked to my pump, so I'd have to put this one in manually. And how you do that is first put the light on by the down arrow, then go into your main menu, go down to sensor, press act, and you'll see the first option there is to calibrate. So press calibrate and then put in 6.6, and that is just saying that 6.6 is above my target than 5, so it's suggesting to maybe go into the bolus wizard to do a correction, which I can do in a minute. So that is how you calibrate. If you had a contour link meter, it would say do you want to update the sensor, so when you do want to do a calibration you go down to yes, or if you're not using a contour link, would be go into the sensor menu and calibrate it that way. Really all you need is 3 calibrations per day once you've done the initial setup. So the best times to do is one first in the morning when you wake up, because your blood will be very stable. The second one at some time during the day, either before lunch or before your evening meal, when your blood glucose has been stable. So when you've not had anything to eat or give any insulin for 3 hours, that's when your blood glucose should be stable. And then your final one before bed. So again, it should be 3 hours after your evening meal, and if you do have a supper, to do the last calibration before your supper. If you're using a contour link meter, every time you do a BG it will ask you, do you want to update the sensor? And apart from those 3 times when you do want to do it, the answer should be no for the rest.